Hello there, this is Peter here from Middle of the Ages. We just finished to play another game. This is the first game from the German division in our Essence of War Meta Triangular League, and it was between Lich King and Theocrit, playing respectively with the Vampire Covenant and with the Infernal Dwarves. So you have here the cards for the patrols. In case you want to pause the video and look at the details, Vampire have 1 Vampire Courtier, 15 Ghouls, 15 Zombies and 5 Spectral Hunters. On the other side, Theocrit is playing with 1 Prophet, and then 10 Citadel Guard, 20 Vassal Levy and only 3 Tauruk Enforcers. Now, Theocrit wins the roll to decide in which side of the board to deploy, and he chooses the one where the closer to the elevation, to the hill. He deploys his entire army. As you can see, he has the Prophet far to the north, then the Citadel Guard in the center, the Vassal Levy, and then behind the hill there's the 3 Tauruk. On the opposite side, there's the Spectral Hunters to the south, the Ghouls in the middle, and then the Zombies together with the Vampire Courtier joined into the unit. Now, in the first turn, there's no charges, of course. And then in the movement phase, the Tauruk come just a tiny little bit on top of the elevation. The Prophet zooms to the other side of the forest, of the hindered terrain, and then the 2 units in the middle, they shuffle a bit. In the magic phase, Theocrit casts a silver spike on the ghouls, killing 1, and then manages to put Corruption of Tin on the zombies in case they can affect the Vampire Courtier. Let's go to turn 1 for the Vampire Covenant. There's a bit of shuffling forward, so no charges. Just generally moving around. The Spectral Hunters to the south, taunting the Tauruk into a charge by advancing a little bit. Then in the magic phase is 4 dice versus 2, and Lich King casts Hasten the Hour on the Tauruk because they're visible, they're just on top of the hill, and that kills 1, which is very scary. You lose 1 out of 3 and stuff, but they pass the panic tests. Then in nothing else happens because the vampire have no shooting phase. In turn 2, you can see that there's no charges happening, but then the Prophet zooms just behind the impassable terrain, out of line of sight of the zombies and of the vampire. Yes, not much in terms of other movements, a bit of pushing forward, but no crazy things happening over there. Then in the magic phase, I think that there's a silver spike cast on the cavalry, but it gets stopped, and I think there's yet another Corruption of Tin on the zombies. Then the Citadel Guards opens fire on the zombies, killing a couple, but nothing else of big consequence. Then we move to the turn 2 for the Vampire Covenant, and in the movement phase, there's a bit of moving forward with the rest of the zombies and the ghouls occupying the center, getting into the victory zone, while the Spectral Hunters stay down to the south, keeping good guards in case the Tauruk decide to move up. In the magic phase, there's yet again an attempt at casting a Hasten the Hour on the Tauruk, but this time it gets dispelled. I guess that Theocrit was quite scared at the prospect of losing another Tauruk, because those things, they're beasts really. So it dispels, puts all dice into dispelling that, and then there's an Arise being cast, so the vampire gets back the zombies and the ghoul that got lost in the previous turn. Then we move, this is half of the game, we move to the to turn 3 for the Infernal Dwarves, and at this point the Tauruk decide to charge in because they're starting to get really scared of that spell, but they roll a double 1, so the charge failed, and so they just shuffle forward by a tiny little bit. In the rest of the movement phase, nothing really happens except for the prophet going back towards the woods again to get, you know, clear line of sight and to get ready to intervene closer to the line also for discipline tests and everything. Then in the magic phase tries again to put a silver spike on the cavalry, but it gets stopped. So no corruption of thin this time. Tough luck really for this magic phase. In the shooting phase, the Citadel Guards kills again another ghoul, or maybe the same one, who knows. And yeah, that's it. That's how the turn ends. Now, turn 3 for the vampire. We have charge phase, so the ghouls charge the Taruk, who hold, and then the spectral hunters charge the Taruk, which decide to hold again. And both charges are successful, so both get in, and now these 2 Taruk are against 14 ghouls and 5 spectral hunters. So it's 2 versus 20 almost. In the movement phase, the zombies go forward. Lich King was hesitating whether to charge or not with those, whether to charge the prophet. I think that it would have, you know, brought them outside of the victory zone. So he advances, but not too much, so that they're not in short range from the Citadel Guard. In the magic phase, he gets 7 dice, and gets the best card, but he really doesn't have many good spells to cast, because the ideal target for the Silver Spike is already in combat, so the vampire decides to cast a Silver Spike on the prophet, but with a half heart, because it's not an ideal target, so he only casts, uses 3 dice for the casting attempt, and he gets a triple 6. So the prophet gets a wound, but I think that the vampire forgets the spell. And arise, blah blah blah, you know, I'm getting a ghoul back, nothing too consequential. What is interesting here is that the in combat, the Vampire Covenant manages to put 0 wounds on the Taruk, and the Taruk reply by killing 3 spectral hunters, which means that the combat is a push, because 3 dead versus 2 ranks and 1 for the charge, so the combat is a tie, and we are left with this situation where the ghouls are in, but both cavalries are outside of the scoring zone by a tiny little margin. Now it's the last turn for Theocrit, so he goes like, yeah man, I'm all in, putting the prophet charging into the zombies. The Citadel Guard is going to charge the ghouls, and the Vassal Levy is going to wheel just right a tiny little bit behind the Tauruk, and then charge into the zombies, trying to hit them, contacting them at the corner with the vampire, right? So they wheel. The prophet, as you see here to the top, contacts the zombies to the other side, so there's room for the vassal levies to go forward, and they move forward and then close the door and align in combat with the vampire only. I think that it was a bit iffy whether it was the space, but Lich King is a classy dude and was like, yeah, just put them in contact, that's it, fun. This means that the Citadel Guard has room to charge into the ghouls as well, and the result is that last turn everybody's in combat. It's like all the units are engaged in combat. There's not really much going on in magic. Something could have happened with Corruption of Tin, but you know, just we are here at this point. We are at 55 minutes, so I guess that they're trying to play fast. But spoiler alert, the game will go past 1 hour, just like this video is going to go past 10 minutes. And so they're both going to get -1 point penalty for slow play. Anyway, going to the combat phase, now that the Citadel Guards is in the mix, they do lose 1, that is true, but the Taruk managed to kill both the Spectral Hunters, and there's also a couple ghouls being felled, and so, you know, in the end there's more dying, because it's essentially 3 points versus 8 points, and so that means that more ghouls are destroyed due to the unstable rule. And what is more interesting is that the Tauruk can now nudge towards the remaining ghouls, which means that they now are in the scoring zone. In the other combat, really not much happens. I think that there's 1 levy being killed versus the charge, so it's a tie again. I think that we checked for this part of the combat that the vassal levy cannot attack the zombies if they're only in contact with the vampire. It was interesting from the rules point of view. So yeah, that's it. A final turn for the Vampire Covenant, looking for a miracle, trying to kill both Tauruk so that they're not in the zone, or some other sort of miracle. I don't know. The vampire is just trying to put everything into an arise to give these extra ghouls chance to fight, so they get added to the unit, get resuscitated, and put in contact with the Tauruk, so that they can try the stunt of killing them both and getting them out of the zone. They managed to kill 1, only 1. So that means that the Infernal Dwarves get to retaliate, and the Tauruk kills 1 ghoul, but then the Citadel Guards, they're massive, strength 5 in combat, so they kill 4 more, which means that the unit of ghouls pops due to the undead rule. So unit is destroyed, and these 2 are now here in the victory zone. One final chance for the vampire to blend 4 vassal levies and the zombies to kill more, and then put a wound on a wound or 2 on the general, and then, you know, the Citadel Guards and the Tauruk fail the panic test, and the situation gets twisted completely around, but it doesn't happen. There's 1 levy killed versus 2 zombies. The zombies do manage to put a wound on the Prophet, bringing it down to 1 wound, but that's not enough to break the levy or anyone else, and so it means that this is how the game ends. At the end of the game, you have 1 unit, zombies, together with the vampire for the Covenant, and on the other side you have all 3 units inside the zone for the Infernal Dwarves, even if it's only 1 Tauruk and only by a bit, but it's a 3 versus 1 for the Infernal Dwarves. But they're both going to get -1 point, because the game ended up lasting, I don't know, maybe 1 hour and 15 minutes or so. So in the end, it's a 2-0, and this is how game 2 ends. That's it. See you soon for the next game of the Essence Meta Triangular League.